What's up, man? How are y'all? Welcome to Wisdom and Grit podcast. My goal with this show is to introduce you to the men and women who build the world and create lives of impact so that we can celebrate them and work together to fulfill the call of masculinity in our homes, our communities, and the world. Today's guest is a woman who lives life on her terms. Originally from Germany, at a young age, she's set to travel the world, and while at the same time building her high-performance coaching business and hasn't looked back since. As the self-proclaimed secret weapon to efficiency, she helps high achievers master their time using the 4 pillars of human optimization, aka her time method. She is passionate, colorful, driven, and full of life, but this all came at a cost. At the age of 24, while getting treatment for a severe back injury, she was raped by the back specialist she was paying to help her heal. He walked away scot-free. Choosing not to be a victim because of this experience, she emerged stronger than ever before, inspiring her to create impact. She partnered with Daughters Rising, an organization that empowers at-risk girls to end human trafficking and exploitation. Please help me in welcoming Monique Linder. And please forgive me if I just butchered your last name, but
You're right. That was
good.
almost correct.
Good. Lindner, I'm assuming. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Well,
Monique,
thanks for the intro. That was great.
yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. So right now you're over in Thailand, so it's
That's
9 o'clock
right.
at night your time,
Yeah.
and I appreciate you, hanging out and being a part of what we're doing here. If there's anything that I missed there in the intro and you feel like it's necessary, why don't you go ahead and fill that in now? Otherwise, we'll jump in.
I guess that my best friend is an elephant, but that's just like one of the side notes, I guess.
That's pretty important, yeah. So a while back we were kind of talking and we got to know each other because I think it was over that whole Gillette ad, and it was talking about toxic masculinity, and then we ended up kind of getting into talking about all that kind of stuff. And while I think politically or in some of the views we may not all agree on everything, I thought you had a really fascinating approach to living life, and I think it's important to put ourselves out there to be honed by other ways of living sometimes, and you had a pretty interesting approach to life, and you've been able to do some pretty incredible things inside of life. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking, first of all? You there?
Yeah. So okay. I just got the first part. So I think you'd asked me how I got into that, right?
Oh, I was asking actually, how old are you at this point?
Oh,
yeah.
That's almost the same question. So yeah, I'm 32 exactly. Right now.
Okay, so 32. And how long have you're right now traveling all over the world. Currently you're in Thailand. You're originally from Germany, and I know that you're all over the world all the time. When did you start kind of doing that?
So since I turned a year older this year, so it's almost been 14 years that I started traveling and living abroad. Yeah.
See, that's amazing to me. And I want to dive deeper into that because I think it's important for men to understand, and really for everybody to understand, that you can build any kind of life that you want because you're running your business out of what you're doing currently, and you're creating a tremendous amount of impact. Currently, you're at the facility that you work with on the human trafficking side, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So once you start out and just kind of what in the world actually got you traveling like that? Like, what was the motivation behind that?
Right. So I think the highest motivation was for me that I personally got to feel on my body what it means that time is our most valuable asset. So when I was 19, I died of a cardiac arrest and I was clinically dead for 25 seconds.
Wow.
That came together through one of my chronic diseases, which is a nervous system disease. And also, I got to say that I stupidly worked myself to death, probably, by the time I started working when I was 13. I had 3 jobs by the time and university. So I was sleeping around 2 to 4 hours max a day for already 5 years, more or less. And so the whole stress, the pressure, plus my nervous system disease that I have just escalated on me. And I literally just knocked out, basically. And my heart said nah, that's stupid enough. I'm going to leave. And lucky me, I kind of realized what was going on. I called my parents in an ambulance, and long story short, I survived. Obviously, you see me here, pretty alive in color. But a few years after that, I realized how lucky I was actually to get back, because not everyone is walking through the other dimension and coming back alive. So I was like, holy shit, 25 seconds that's first of all really, really close to brain damage. And I actually got a little brain damage. A few people would say like, yeah, they can see that based on my opinions or whatever. And other, like, most people would say like, oh, I would never realize that. And I would say, oh, thank you. But but it's not really visible or anything that people would realize when they speak to me, whatever. It's literally just impacted my ability to learn. So I have to actually learn 5 times to kind of remember something, right?
Wow.
So if you read something, you remember something, I have to read it, write it, speak it, hear it, and then I kind of probably remember it, maybe.
Wow.
And so, the realizing that throughout my years after university, I was like, I actually am fucking lucky to, first of all, still be here. And second of all, having a second chance of life. And I really should use it. And so looking back, I was like, first of all, I was a really people-pleasing bitch, if I may just say that. And I don't call women usually a bitch, but looking back, I was really just like trying to please not for the sake for the others, but for the sake of being left alone, because everyone would just nag at me, bully me, trying to make me someone I'm not, trying to tell me I don't belong to, all of this kind of bullshit you hear, right? And I just was so sick of it. So I tried to people please in different ways. And looking back, I was like, man, I wasted so much time and energy on that, trying to fit in, trying to belong somewhere I didn't even want to belong. And it's like, how dumb is that we just don't live the way that we want? And so realizing that, I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm doing whatever I want. I'm doing whatever is good for me. I'm doing whatever in that moment feels right, whether or not it's going to turn out to be the thing I really want to do it forever. And I don't really believe in forever, because I died when I was 19. So how long is forever anyways, right?
Right.
And so literally I started traveling straight after I died. I moved to London and got drugged in a nightclub. So I guess that went well. I also got threatened with a knife. So I guess I did everything right. And so coming back, my parents, we're from East Germany, behind the wall. I don't know how much you know about the separation.
Yeah. So back in the 80s.
Yeah. So my parents basically grew up in a prison, right?
Wow.
And so they thought me coming back from London, being like threatened with a knife, scammed all out of my money, and drugged in a nightclub. They were like, okay, so now that you tried that, you're done. And I'm like, well, no, now that I tried it, everything went wrong. I can only get it better, right?
Yeah, that's good.
And
good
they
approach.
lost their minds. Yeah. But ever since, I never stopped, basically. So I moved around, moved to Spain, moved back. And then I thought, like, what should I do in Germany? Because I've been here all the time. I know whatever I've seen. And ever since I started, I've been to 42 countries and lived in 8 different ones out of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So the mindset that you had, I mean, I didn't know you were from East Germany. I didn't even correlate the fact that you were from the time when the Berlin Wall was up. That's pretty fascinating. What was that like? I mean, because that obviously had to have made a pretty big impact on the way that you see the world.
I tell you what, I have no fucking idea. I only lived for 3 years in East Germany, and those 3 years I spent in hospital because I was kidney sick from the time that Chernobyl hit
Oh my gosh.
Europe. So I actually
Dang, you lived some life there.
Here I am.
Yeah.
So I got contaminated while my mom was pregnant with me. She got contaminated. My kidneys didn't grow. I ended up having this chronic disease, which ended up having a second one. So all of the things. So the first time I was about to die was when I was 3. Was 19, I actually died. And then this just keeps going.
Wow. Okay, so you went to London.
Like I'm just not dying.
Yeah, you went to London. You got held up by a knife point for what? Like, what was that about?
Actually, I may have just done everything wrong in London. So I moved in in the only Muslim area in London. Because
Wow.
why not? I thought. So I was the only white person there, which is not something bad, right? But I thought like, hey, why not? You know, it's an experience. And I lived with a girl there who rented out 3 rooms in her house to other girls. So I, 19, moving abroad for the first time, thought, oh, you know, all the girls together, great. Nothing can go wrong. Well, no, that was not the case. She was, which I found out later, known for scamming girls into you know, like taking the rents off them and then like mobbing them out of the house. And one way she mobbed them out of the house was kind of being crazy or whatever she was. I don't really know what she was doing, if she was playing it or if she indeed was so crazy. So one night she would break into my room and stand with this huge kitchen knife over my bed, threatening me to like cut my throat if I'm not going to leave the house the next day. And she had like 3 months of rent and deposit of me. So that was like, by that time, it was 2007, it was like 2,000 US dollars, more or less, because it was really expensive already. And I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna leave.
That's insane. I mean, that's a big concern, I think, for people who might even be considering traveling. And I know you've gone to 42 countries and you've lived in what, 6, you said?
8, yeah.
8 of them, yeah. Mm-hmm. So from the security issue or just even the safety, I guess, like, how did you kind of move beyond that or have you? I don't know. Is it always, do you feel like it's been dangerous like that? Or obviously you have to use your mind about some of this stuff.
I mean, let's be honest. First of all, I started out having like all of the dangers just checking off my box, right?
Yeah.
So knife threatening, drugged in a nightclub, scammed. So I've had that already checked off the box. So I thought like, well, it happened once. Why should it happen again? So I kind of know my way around now. That was my thinking.
Yeah.
Then, and then honestly, and that sounds really, really stupid and naive, and I admit that, but because of my chronic diseases, you gotta understand that throughout my life, I went through the most horrendous, excruciating pain that most people cannot even grasp. They cannot understand what pain I have.
Yeah.
So I felt invincible. I always felt like nothing could get to me. Also, I survived the clinical death, so I came back from death, and I'm like, hey, I came back from death already. Like, what do you want to do to me, basically, right?
Yeah.
With this kind of belief in myself, I went into the world and thought, like, no one can get to me. And that worked half well so far.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, if you are just street smart, a lot of people, they just go out and they do things that really aren't very clever in how you work around yourself in the world, right?
Right.
So if you're going to get money from an ATM that's in the middle of the street, well, you can throw your money just like that everywhere, because they're gonna scam you. You're gonna go into the bank where there is kind of security around there. You know what I mean? So like, be a little bit street smart, I guess.
No, that's good.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important. The street smarts, and I don't know how many people have actually taken the time to do that. I think most of the guys in here. Can you hold on just a second? I'm gonna bring my dog in here. He's up there whining. Apologize. Come on. Come here, Winston, baby. All right, I apologize about that.
No, hey puppy.
What's up, buddy? It's Sir Winston. Ugh. He's over here. All right.
Oh, what a cutie. Oh, hey.
Yeah, he's a good boy. All right, come on, sit down. Be comfortable. All right, I apologize.
No, please don't.
So whenever you started traveling the world, you've gone to all these different countries and stuff. What is the process that you have? You just kind of go there, like how do you kind of prepare going to a new country? Like what is the format for going there and actually finding a way to thrive? Or is it just at a certain point you kind of get to where you're actually just hey, it's just a thing, right? I mean, you're just kind of going there and you don't really worry about it too much, or you always kind of on point about it.
Right. So in the beginning, you know, I still had a full-time job in Germany and in corporate Germany. So you got to understand, like, we work our asses off every single day. We do have quite a bit more holidays than or vacation time than in America. But we do also work. Like, that's why I think German efficiency is such a thing. Because I used to compare like 8 hours of work in Germany with any kind of weeks in other countries, because they literally stand with a whip beside you and just like trying to get you to work as much as you can. So, you know, I used to have about 24 days of holidays in Germany, which should be about 4 weeks. So I would go on vacation time twice, usually in spring and in fall, or in winter time and in like beginning of summer, because it's still freaking cold in Germany.
Yeah.
And I would diligently plan every single move because I did not want to waste any time while being on vacation to think about where do I go next, what do I do. And since I'm a performance coach now, and I used to study project management, and I put like 15,000 hours into my education around project management, team leadership. Obviously, that was kind of my fun free time activity to plan my next vacation time, you know? So for that time, that was really just what I was doing. But since I started traveling like long term, I'm now on the road for 5 years, full time.
Wow.
And I pretty much just kind of close my eyes, point on the next country, and then I just go. That's more or less what I do. Not really, but it kind of feels like it sometimes. And it really is the experience that you have. I've been to what people would say to me really dangerous countries. I've been alone to India. I've been to Brazil just recently. I moved to Rio de Janeiro for the carnival and everything. And the first thing that most of my Brazilian friends also told me is like, you know, Monique, you're a white blonde girl, so be ready to have a gun on your head. I'm like, okay.
Be ready to what?
To have a gun pointed on your head.
Are you serious? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I always thought Brazil was somewhat safe.
It really depends where you go.
Yeah.
What you do. Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro is more or less chaotic in the past year or two. And even the thing is, so people say that, but the reality is just not what it happens. So that the risk is there, but it just doesn't happen on a daily basis.
Right.
So if you're street smart, you can have a really good time, and I had a really good time.
That's good.
Yeah, it was amazing. So, but you know, it's also a thing, if you are in the wrong time, in the wrong place, just because you make a wrong choice, that can also mean you have a gun on your head then, you know? So
right. Yeah. So you've traveled a lot of all these places. I mean, what was kind of your favorite place to go?
Oh no, I hate this question.
You do?
You know why? It's so different. Like, how are you going to compare Bolivia with India with the Philippines? Like, it's just not possible whatsoever.
They all bring
what I can say is that, and what I can say is like there are some favorite experiences that I had because they were so out of everything else, right?
Yeah.
For example, for my 30th birthday, I planned the Inca Trail trek in Peru from the Sacred Valley to the Machu Picchu, right?
Wow.
And then for my 30th birthday, I climbed the higher mountain next to Machu Picchu, which is called Hiay no Picchu. And it's like, that was a little bit over the top, but whatever, I stand by it. So I dressed up in my birthday outfit with a yellow skirt because, you know, I'm obsessed with yellow.
Yeah.
And literally climbed 4 hours this mountain, which is like steep staircases, just 4 hours climbing. And then got on top in this like yellow dress and everything and just be there and be like, it's my 30th birthday, everyone. Hi. Yeah. And I'm alone, you know, I'm everywhere alone. So everyone's like, oh, is it your birthday? And everyone celebrated me. And it was just so cool, you know, because I'm like, whatever. I'm just going to tell everyone here if they want to know or not.
Yeah. So have you found that people across the world are mostly welcoming and kind of, I mean, they want to learn more about your culture and kind of fall in, or Have you experienced that?
Yeah. So I tell you what, people all over the world are the same. And the reason why I'm saying that is not because of their religious background or their cultures, but because they're all having red blood. And I've seen a lot of blood, so I should know slowly.
Yeah.
We all have the same smiles. When we smile, we are all beautiful, really beautiful. So we just need to smile more. Actually, it's a stupid thing to say, like, you should smile, you're so beautiful, but it's true.
Yeah.
And you know, we all basically, that sounds really bad now, but we all have to go to the toilet. We all do that.
Yeah.
We all have the same body functions basically. And what I want to say is, like, we all
The good,
have a
the bad, the
heartbeat.
ugly. We're all the same. Yeah.
Yes, we all have a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I think people make differences in the really tiny things that don't even matter. Like, who I am to decide whether or not you should believe in that thing or in that thing or whatever. Like, I couldn't be bothered less about what you believe, what I believe, as long as we get, you know, on the same level about who we are. And
Right.
we're humans, right?
Yeah.
And so I do like, it's always funny how people react when I say I'm German. It's either, oh, you're German, or, oh, you're German. And
well,
really
why would that be a
depends
bad
where you
thing?
are. Yeah, and sometimes greet me with the Hitler sign, and I'm not really happy about that.
That's hilarious. So as far as you've gone out there, like going back to the smile thing, it's so weird to me that we, like, as a natural phenomenon, when we're happy, we smile and we're showing our teeth to people. I mean, isn't that weird? I mean,
it really is, but
yeah.
I guess, yeah, I don't know.
And how that triggers some sort of relief in our life, you know, whereas as an animal, if they were to show their teeth to us, we'd be like, oh God, he's going to eat me, you know? I mean, like some kind of a bear or something.
Right. Yeah, totally.
So,
but
yeah.
maybe we misunderstand animals then. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to, I'm just making things up now.
Yeah, could be. I don't know. It's pretty funny. So let's get into what you do for a living, because this is what's really afforded that all right for you.
Yeah.
Like being efficient. And, you know, it's funny because you talk about being the secret weapon to efficiency. And I think that really stands out for me because, you know, like efficiency is something I wouldn't say is like my strongest, you know, like attribute per se. But, you know, I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm more like you in this regard, that when I go in someplace, I'm just super certain that I'm going to be able to navigate it, because I've been through enough stuff in life to recognize that, you know, you hit me and I fall to the ground, I'm getting back up with my fist clenched and with a big smile on my face, right? I'm going to make it happen and it's going to do whatever. And I'm not really that worried about it. So when it comes to efficiency, like, what are the biggest issues that you see people making right out of the gate?
Not prioritizing whatsoever. So basically what they think is they got to do everything. They got to do everything at once at the same time. Multitasking is your biggest enemy because it doesn't work. It not only doesn't work for men, but it doesn't work at all. So also women, sorry to break it to you, dear woman, but you can't multitask. It's bullshit. It's absolutely bullshit.
Isn't that odd that people brag about that?
Oh.
Like, I'm a multitasker. Like, people will literally put that on their resume as if that's a good thing.
Right? I mean, if someone would put that at their resume, I would literally put them inside thanks, next.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. I know you were continuing on, but I was like, that was
no, totally fine. But you know, the reason why is if you try to multitask, our brain needs to focus on one thing. So multitasking means that your brain tries to focus on both things. So it's going to switch. Each task switch can take up to 10 to 40 minutes. Imagine that, up to 40 minutes to get back into one task. Now, if you switch consistently, you don't even focus at all.
Right.
So you're just confusing your brain. And people think like, yeah, but I can listen to a podcast and work on the side. I'm like, okay, so what's the point? You're not listening to the podcast, and you need to think a minimum of double as long, for some people even 5 times as long. You need to think about what you're actually doing. I'm like, what's the point? You know what I mean? So
So for somebody
But these
that's actually lived their life multitasking, thinking that was a good thing, are they redeemable?
they just got to stop doing it.
But is it as easy as that? I mean, have you found that like people can just stop doing that?
You can. You just need to change the belief because it's really actually a habit, right? So you need to break the habit. And
Right.
it's not. It's literally just. It's as easy as it's make the decision, right? It's literally you can believe that you're addicted to smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
But if you would really want to, you can stop. And people always say, but no, addiction is a disease. Actually, it's not.
Right.
It's it's a habit that you trained your brain to do. It's a habit loop.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a disease as if. So because smoking cigarettes, for example, doesn't necessarily make you as addicted as, for example, heroin. Heroin is very different.
Yeah.
Not talking about something like that, but anyways, we're getting like really drifted away. But yes, you can actually change it. You just need to make the decision and be aware that every time you want to multitask, that instead of multitasking, you do something else. And if something else needs to actually be focused on this one topic, one task, one whatever you're doing, right? And sounds very simple, and it is very simple. It's not as easy as it sounds, but it's very much possible. I've been a recovering multitasker because in Germany, they basically make you multitasking, be on the phone, write an email, talk to someone else next to you. It's as stupid as it sounds. And
you
so
need to use
I
that in
stopped
your
doing
marketing.
that completely. Sorry?
I said you need to use that in your marketing, recovering multitaskers, It'd be a good
I should
headline.
do that. So. Yeah, totally.
So whenever you're walking people through your time method, which is TIME, it's all an acronym. First of all, explain to people what that is, and then let's walk through that because I'm interested to hear more about that.
Cool. So TIME method is the acronym for time management, impactful leadership, mindset mastery, and energy efficiency. And so these four together I'm using to actually get you to your most efficient version of yourself. Sounds always like woo-woo, but it's not really.
Right.
It's all based on scientifically proven methods, either from a psychology perspective or from a neuroscientifically perspective. So time management is really time management. So what I do is I've created for my for my clients. So I call it a flexi schedule. Really weird name, but what it does is it's a schedule that already tells you every week, every day in a specific time slot which certain tasks you should be doing. So what kind of topic you should be working on. And then every Sunday, I make you actually figuring out which tasks you're going to put in this time slot. If you, for example, want to take off a different day than you would normally do, you can easily just like switch the free day. Let's say Saturday is your normally day off. You put it on a Tuesday and all the other days just go and move one day backwards, basically, right? So it's really flexible, but what it does is it takes away all the decision making every single day that you would otherwise do to decide what task should I be doing, what should I be focusing on, what is most important, blah, 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 all this kind of thing. What it does to you is it leaves all the brain capacity that we have per day for your most important tasks. And if you probably look at Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, Barack Obama, they have a reason why they are dressed every day in the same way. They just don't want to waste any brain capacity on deciding what to wear, for example, right? Then they have other people planning their weeks because they do not want to use their brain capacity. And so there was an American psychologist who found out in research I think it was in the 70s, that after a certain amount of time per day, we have a so-called decision fatigue. Decision fatigue is that just imagine the memory of our computers, right? After 27 tabs on your Chrome browser, it's going to say like, okay, I have enough. I can't do anymore. And it's the same with our brain. The more decisions you make, the more tasks you do, the more answers you give to questions or whatever, the less brain capacity you have throughout the day.
Yeah.
And on average, someone says like we cannot be more productive than 6 hours a day in average.
Interesting.
So everything more, you're just tricking yourself into bullshit.
Yeah, well, and I think it's funny because, I mean, how many times do we do that to ourselves? We're tricking ourselves into believing, hey, I'm going to become this superhuman efficient person. But it's like we're over here, you know, on social media, we're doing this, we're creating content, we're doing that thing, this thing, you know, and I see it, you know, I mean, in my own life, even as we're sitting here talking about it, and I'm like, man, this is something, you know, I have to get in check probably. Do you use Teams for yourself, or like, how do you manage kind of what you're doing with people? Yeah.
Well, right now I'm efficient enough. And so I do outsource actually everything that I shouldn't be doing. So for example, I'm kind of a nerd myself and I love doing my website and everything. Whoopsie. But I'm not doing it anymore because it's not efficient and I shouldn't be doing it. It's waste of time, waste of my brain capacity. So I'm outsourcing my website. I'm outsourcing my membership site creation. I'm outsourcing my funnel, for example, all this kind of tech stuff. Although I actually love doing it, but I shouldn't be doing it. So I'm outsourcing this stuff. Yeah.
Have you noticed it? I mean, an uptick in your overall, not only in your production level, but in the overall effectiveness of, and like the income, like, you know, generation and all that kind of stuff by doing that?
Yeah, 100%. Because first of all, you have more time to take care of your clients. And second of all, I've dialed in way more my whole process of my framework. Yeah. So the better I become in my framework, first of all, the more I can charge and the faster I can take my clients instead of one-on-one into groups.
Yeah.
And so as soon as I can take that, I can scale it up.
So you're taking your clients from one-on-one into groups, you said? Is that your process? Yeah.
So right now I have them one-on-one, and I'm actually dialing in each kind of my ideal clients because they still are a little bit different. So each of their problems I'm dialing in, and I make my process as ideal as possible to them. Once I've done that, then I know that I stabilized my process in my business. And then I take that as a system and I create the same version as a group.
Yeah.
And then I can scale it up.
100%. Yeah. That's kind of the same thing I'm doing too. So whenever you kind of started traveling and doing all that, like, how did you make money out of the gate? Because you obviously have you been doing this that whole time?
So actually, no. I started my business 2 years ago. When I started traveling, I did something very much different. I always have to laugh because it's very different. So I had enough from all this corporate businesses. I had enough from all this time management stuff for a bit. So I became a scuba dive instructor first.
Oh, cool. So you just kind of did whatever you could to get around, it seems like.
Yeah. Actually, no, I just did what I really wanted to do. And everything that I wanted to do was the whole different of being in any office. Yeah. And I just wanted to be close to the ocean and whales and sharks. And I was like, I want to see sharks. Yeah. So I went and did it. And because I'm not a half-assed person, I became an instructor instead of just going diving a little bit. So I literally went it from 0 to hero in like 8 months and did the whole 11 levels of becoming an instructor.
Wow. That's cool. Yeah. So did you make enough doing that I mean, it was enough to sustain you, or were you kind of, you know, still financially?
Oh, not at all.
You didn't?
No, I actually, no. The truth is that I saved a lot of money from in my corporate career before I left Germany. And then I did a skill exchange in the diving school for doing marketing for them and becoming a scuba dive instructor in return. So they paid all of my instructor licenses. And I like worked as a digital marketer for them in return. And so I used my savings to live in Thailand for the whole year. And then because I'm very, like, I can be really frugal if I want to, I only used half of my savings. And then I moved to Australia. In Australia, I did like random jobs because I wasn't sure what kind of business I want to open. And I was like, I just can't be bothered right now. And it was all in Australia, it was all really chaotic at that time.
Yeah.
And that was like 4 years ago. And then I worked like random jobs again in digital marketing and admin jobs and stuff like that, and executive assistant and all this kind of shit that I could do with my resume in Australia. And then I saved 10,000 US dollars, and then I just went traveling for a year in Latin America.
Wow. So you could do it for as little as 10 grand?
What if you want to?
Yeah, you could. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess people just tend to have this in their mind that it's going to cost you, 100 grand a year just to be able to take off like that. So they kind of just write off, the idea of doing that because they have this preconceived notion that it's going to cost them a lot of money. And, like by the time they're ever able to do that, they're going to be 80 years old anyway or something,
Yeah. So I had 10 grand and I went 8 months through Latin America. And I did all the big tours. I went 25,000 kilometers overland. I went to 10 countries. Yeah, I had a pretty good time, I guess.
Yeah, that's super cool. So as you've been doing this, you're working with, like, from what I can tell, I was looking at some of the people you've worked with, and there's some good, high level influencers and stuff like that, and you've been able to affect them. Like what is it that people are walking away with most whenever they're getting this part of it down? I mean, I can assume in my own mind, but what have you seen the biggest transitions that have taken place in those people's lives as you've worked with them?
Right. So just recently, one of my VIP clients, we were able to scale one of his businesses from 30K a month to 100K a month only by restructuring his business and prioritizing really on the most important tasks.
Wow.
This was a huge thing because he didn't even see the change until we got there and looking back. And he's like, oh my God, that's actually remarkable. And I'm like, I told you we're going to get there. And I think the most important thing is also that people get such a peace of mind from knowing that they won't have to think about anymore how to get to their goals or to the next step, to the next level, because I'm taking their goals for the whole year and I literally break it down until the daily task level.
Yeah.
Like that's how efficient I can make them, right?
Wow.
If you tell me the goal for your next year, I can break it down in one by one, step by step, actionable steps you have to take. If you follow them, you will get there. Yeah. You tell me you want to make 5 million, I can get you to 5 million, but you have to listen to me, right?
Right.
So
that's fascinating.
And I think that's the thing, right? It's like very, very actionable. And I'm not saying it's not hard work, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But I'm not gonna make you hustling and grinding. I forbid you to work on the weekend. I'm actually gonna take you so many tasks off your list because they're bullshit tasks. And it's really a thing. You have so many tasks on your list that you shouldn't be doing or delegating, or they're just bullshit. Really, we are loading ourselves with busy tasks just because we don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And so I actually give you something to do in your free time. I send my clients to play golf, tennis.
So you actually lay out their entire schedule?
Yeah.
You map it out, or do you work with them to map it out?
Well, sometimes I start mapping it out first, and then I allow them to add something to it.
Yeah.
It depends how hardcore they are. Because I have clients coming to me, they work 100 hours a week, and I'm just slapping them in the face, and I'm like, nope. Now I'm going to plan your week, and then you just follow along for a bit, and then I let you see how you can add something to it.
Do people adapt to that shift in their daily schedule pretty quick, or is that something that, is something that you feel like they give a lot of kind of pushback on until they kind of find their groove within it?
I have a lot of resistance to deal with in the beginning, especially most entrepreneurs and business owners feel guilty when they don't work.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
think
that's the
there's
first,
something going on there for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so the first thing we work on is the feeling guilty part before I even change the schedule.
Hmm.
So, and mindset is a huge thing, right?
Oh yeah.
So we work on the mindset first. Before we get into the schedule, usually it's like the first session, first week. So how it works is you have one session a week with me and you get an action plan after that. You got to follow those actions. If you don't follow them, you're not going to get any results. So I'm sorry, but you got to listen to me if that's what you want or not. But if you work with me, you got to follow those actions. Otherwise, I can't guarantee any results, right? That's just what it is. And so basically, the first week is literally just digging really deep. I'm going to dig really deep. Why do you have these habits? Why do you believe this is what you got to do? Where do these beliefs come from? All of these kind of things. And we start to untangle everything. So when we've done that, I'm going to look into like, what do you actually do? Why do you think you have to do it? Why you keep doing it, basically. So it's like all of this, we just keep untangling. And then I get to the point where I say like, okay, now I'm going to work through your schedule. And what I start with is your personal habits. So I'm going to build a morning routine for you with the outcomes that you want to have.
Yeah.
I'm going to build an evening routine for you with the outcomes that you want to have. I add healthy habit stacks throughout your day, and then I add your work.
What's a healthy habit stack? Like, what does that mean?
So a habit stack is basically, it's very similar to a routine, but a stack is actually that you attach new habits to a habit that you anyways have already. So let's say you're eating lunch already every day at 12 p.m., right? But we want you to get more sunlight and fresh air and a little bit more movement. So instead of just making you order food and eating lunch on your desk, we now gonna stack habits together that are more healthy and get a better outcome for you. So I'm gonna make you go outside, walk to the store, get healthy lunch, walk back. So that's already like 3 new habits that we stack together. Then you eat this lunch at 12. Yeah. I'm going to make you walk around outside again, around your office or wherever you are, and then sit down, and then you are allowed to work again. So we have like 4 new habits that we stack around one habit that you anyways have already.
How many job offers have you gotten to come and work for somebody full time? I'll bet that's a pretty big number.
I think I ignore them all. I think sometimes people are too intimidated to actually offer me to be there full time. But I had clients who hired me to also get their teams into place.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, what you're doing, I mean, it's not outside of the realm of common sense, but it is, right? Because very few people are actually living this way. And it's funny because like the lifestyle that you've been able to accomplish by going out and a lot of exploration, but having your past and kind of taking the time to come from corporate America and working yourself into a grave, literally, to coming out and creating knowing that that's not the path you wanted out of life, and having that skill set and pushing back on it almost, and resisting that way of life almost to a point where it was like, reframing it, right? And to a point where you could actually see it from a healthy approach to get what you want. And I think that's so interesting because so many times in our lives, we have these things happen in our lives, and you have a good mindset in that it's your mental toughness seems to be on point. That's pretty rare, it seems, these days. So unfortunately, but to understand that these things that are happening in our lives are not necessarily happening to us, but happening for us. If we kind of just opened up the door to kind of experience, like, what is it that I can learn from this rather than poor me, this is just happening to me or whatever else. So, and it actually came to unfold in a way that was super beneficial for you. And now you're able to help other people kind of experience that at the same time. I think that's amazing. It's cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
100%.
So, I mean, I don't want to drag up, the pain of, having gone through that rape at 23 years old necessarily, but I do think it's important that we dive into that because of what you're doing now and where you're at now, which I'm a huge proponent of. been a part of an organization down here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex that, helps get women and kids and stuff out of, sex trafficking and human trafficking and types of environments, and what you guys are doing. And I definitely want to give some time to that. So I'll let you dive in where you feel comfortable in that, and then we'll kind of take that, because I really want to understand the dichotomy between what happened to you and then why that shifted you into really just being all in on this.
Right. So I think it's good to say that I've been raped twice. Good to say is the thing. It's important to say. So I've been raped twice in my life. The first time from my first boyfriend, I was 15 years old, and he raped me multiple times throughout the relationship. Whenever I was really kidney sick and I actually shouldn't have had sex or whatever, he probably just thought I'm the girlfriend, so I belong to him, and he violently then went ahead to take what he thought belongs to him. And so this went ahead for almost a year, and a lot of people ask, like, why didn't you leave? And the answer is, I guess, really, and I'm gonna tell you later why I'm saying that. The answer is really, first of all, I was 15 years old. What the fuck did I know? The second reason is I do believe that, especially in my generation, we grew up kind of to believe, and I think you probably know that from a masculine perspective, as girls, as a girl in Western society, I was made believe like I need to be a good girl, I need to say yes to everything, I shouldn't make a scene, I shouldn't make trouble, I shouldn't be loud, I shouldn't, all these kind of things. On the other hand, I grew up in a very masculine environment, so I also was told like, don't have emotions, don't show this, and I had a lot of pain, so don't cry, don't make troubles, don't make a scene when you are actually sick, just be quiet, sneak out in the back, then you can be unconscious, like don't ever let anyone see you're sick. And I'm like, that's weird, because how do I know that I'm going to fall over unconscious? Like, I mean, sorry for bothering you, And so growing up in this environment and in this space of don't be a burden to anyone, be a yes kind of girl. So I kind of like literally was 15 years old, first relationship ever. I thought like, well, I'm the girlfriend. I have to kind of let this happen to me, right? So I got really, really sick from it with my kidneys, obviously, for over a year. And I had to sneak away to the doctor to get antibiotics and had to hide everything. Like, it was a horrible time, but I didn't understand what happened to me by the time, because I couldn't tell anyone. I had like bruises everywhere, and I literally just had to hide that, but I didn't really know. I knew something was wrong. I couldn't put the finger on it, because I never heard about raping at that time. I never heard anything.
Wow.
I only knew that guys were not supposed to like hit me or whatever, and if they do, I should just hit back, kind of. That was what I heard. But I didn't know anything else. I didn't know that was a thing. So I didn't know that this was wrong. I mean, I knew, but I kind of, this is
I got
what
you.
happened.
Yeah.
So 8 years later, I was 24, and I had a really severe spine injury. I had 4 discs that herniated, and they cut off my spinal cord. So my right leg was not numb. It was not able to move.
Yeah.
But I had the pain.
Wow.
So I kind of had to drag it along. There was only one specific therapist in Berlin who was able to treat that very specific injury. So I went there, and the first times he was very, very great in how he went through the therapy. And so I went there, and it was a private treatment, so the insurance wouldn't take care of it. So that also meant I wasn't registered that I was going there, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it was the 3rd time I was there, he decided to violently rid myself of my clothes and used 3 fingers to finger me from behind multiple times until I was finally able to move myself away, because I wasn't able really to move anyways with my back. When I told him that this is rape and he illegally did that, he looked at me and he said, like, no, you're way too attractive. So I had to try how that feels like. And
where was this?
Sorry?
Where was this?
In Germany, in Berlin.
Really?
Yeah. And so I went to the police and I reported it, and it went up to the criminal department of whatever they do there. But the problem is that they couldn't prove it because, well, there was no sperm and nothing. So they couldn't find any fingernail, whatever things. And so they said, like, we are sorry, we need to believe him and not you. And so they archived the case. Because in Germany, the law says, in doubt, we need to believe the perpetrator. So they doubt that there was any truth, and so they believed him. And so I'm not allowed to talk about the name. Yeah, I'm not allowed to talk about the name, and I'm not allowed to actually write about the praxis or the place where it happened, simply because there was no proof of law that it happened. And so he could sue me for libel in case that I'm saying his name.
Wow.
I'm laughing because it's just as dumb as fuck that he could sue me for raping me. It's funny. But anyways, to be honest, I can only laugh about it now because I worked so much through it, and he has no fucking power about me anymore, because I chose to make this my strongest point. I'm getting stronger from it, and I chose to make this the purpose of my impact, right? And so I can only laugh about it because I also believe in karma, and I've seen karma getting to work, and so I can just say, like, I mean, karma will get him, and it's not going to be a nice thing for him. So whatever, I'm fine. I'm fine with that. He had his 2 minutes, and that's it.
I'm sorry to hear that. I know that's I can't even comprehend that. And the fact that he would do that, it just shows on a whole other level. If that happened to my family, like my wife or my daughter, I'd be making sure that dude never was seen again. You know what I'm saying? But
see, and my dad said the same, right? And I chose not to tell my dad even his name because I do not want the responsibility of my dad actually following through on that. I do not want these consequences, and I do not allow that this person has more negative impact on me, on my family. Yeah. So I choose to rather work through that myself, and if the police in Germany is not even professional enough to do something about it, that's up to them, Right. But I really strongly believe in karma because I have seen it work in my favor multiple times. I'm such a great person. I collected a lot of karma points, and everyone who thinks they need to come at me, they're just going to wait, because what goes around comes around, and they're just going to be fucking hit in the head from the back. Yeah. Pretty hard, I promise you. And I don't even need to do anything. I'm like, you know what? You better should have not fucked around with this bitch, because that's going to come back at you really hard, my friend. I'm like, fine with that, I'm like, whatever. You will see what happens,
Well, I'm sorry you had to walk through that, but inside of all bad things, every rose has its thorns, right? So you kind of look at the scenario of what that's given you in so many ways, and I hope that doesn't come off as being, not sympathetic to that, because that's not at all where I'm trying to take it. But you've walked through these things, and it's actually inspired you to be a part of something that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise inside of what you're doing with the human trafficking organization. And it was Daughters, what was it called? Daughters Rising. Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about that, and just kind of, you're there right now. It's probably 10 o'clock at night for you there. you're there hanging
Yeah.
out with elephants and, you know, children and all kinds of cool stuff in the middle of the
That's
jungle.
Yeah. So one thing, just because you mentioned it, I don't think you need to have any sympathy for me anyways. I think the
Right.
most important part is to have compassion, and that's a big difference, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't think there's any sympathy to have in this situation anyways.
Right.
And I think we shouldn't, but compassion is what it's needed. And although you might not know what the situation is like, maybe you do know, I don't know, right? But
Yeah.
I think compassion is what we should have for each other anyways in any situation. And that is a difference to sympathy. But this is only just a side note, right?
Good point.
Just because you mention it. But so I'm at Daughters Rising. Daughters Rising is an amazing, amazing organization. So basically, it's two different things. Daughters Rising is a nonprofit, and Chilai Orchid is the eco lodge with the elephants. So the eco lodge has 12 elephants that are rescued from tourism that has been very, very abusing in the past for them. And so right now we actually do it already. We have an eco lodge here where you can live in little bungalows by the river, and the elephants are not abused anymore. They don't have to ride you around in like those heavy metal chairs and whatever.
Yeah.
But instead they hang out with you. They go and I always have to laugh because we're telling our customers that they can walk with the elephants through the jungle, but in reality they just walk and like they just walk around and they eat everything that comes in their way, and you just walk with them. But whatever you do, they're just like, as long as I have my food, right?
That's funny.
That's just the truth.
Yeah.
But they also go bathing in the river, and that's really fun though. And you can scrub them, you can you splash water all over them. They really love a good scrub because they have a lot of mosquito bites just like us, and they hate it. But they can basically not like us spray some shit on them. They have to get the mud, bathe and whatever.
Yeah.
So that's what we do here. And so the Eco Lodge is funding the nonprofit Daughters Rising. So everything that we can bring here and all the profit literally goes to Daughters Rising. And Daughters Rising is one of the most amazing organizations because it's local and it has impact directly on the people. So we are helping especially women, but not only, families in the villages that usually belong to minorities, for example, the Karen Hill tribe here in northern Thailand, but also in Myanmar, in the borders, or in the Shan states, for example. And you might have seen my amazing post about no human is illegal, where a lot of people thought I'm talking about the US borders, which is not true. I talked about, for example, Myanmar, where there's a huge genocide going on, the Gaza Strip, Yemen. There are so many countries out there, guys and girls. I'm sorry to break it to you. The US is not the only country. But,
hey, now watch your mouth. No, I'm just playing with it. Come
on. But so I'm talking about these huge issues where people are made being stateless. So even after generations of people who lived there, the government has decided to make them stateless and take away their identities. Now they hunt them down and kill them unless they get away. This is what happens. People don't know about it because the media is basically like just shutting up because they don't want to get in the way. And so we are trying and we do our best. We're helping these women especially to get here, to get a legal, not illegal, a legal work visa, a legal permit to stay. They get a work education in tourism and hospitality, whatever they like to do. Some of them can get a scholarship for university, college, or any kind of school they want to go to. We send them there. We teach them Thai and English because many of them speak only Karen or Burmese or whatever different language they come from. So they learn Thai so they can actually work here later, and English, which I do sometimes as well with them. They have trauma healing based on trauma healing workshops. They have self-defense workshops, which we offer for them, and all these kind of things. And so we fund that through the Eco Lodge, but also through donations from people, which we need more and more and more, if possible. And we are trying really hard to give them a home and somewhere to belong, because this is our deepest human need, right? And this is what I was literally talking about in this post. We need for everyone a place to belong to, and that's all I was talking about, not about US borders. You can do whatever you want to do there with your wall. If you think the wall works, I can tell you from East Germany that doesn't, but hey, you can try.
That's funny. Well, that's a whole other conversation. I'd love to go into it with you sometime, because it's like I personally think that the idea of the wall would be beneficial, and we've seen some already stuff at along the border of California where they've seen a pretty good decrease in overall traffic coming across the wall. It's not about people coming over to the U.S. It's just doing that illegally, right? And there's a process for it. But so one of the things too that I think is important.
Think actually they just need to change the systems. That's all.
Yeah, there's a lot there. I agree with you on that. I think it's just we need to have a good, healthy conversation about what all of that looks like, and there's some things there, but we do have some legitimate threats, like when it comes to the cartels and some things like that, and human trafficking. I mean, it's all happening right there, right? So
there's
a lot of
100%. But they're also if we just make it quick, there are also people being made illegal which haven't been illegal in the past 10 years and shouldn't be made illegal, because if they're allowed by law to come and ask for asylum, that doesn't automatically make them illegal, right?
Yeah.
So this system needs to be actually very clear. And then obviously human trafficking, cartels, all of that, for sure is that illegal. Like who the fuck wants that to be legal? No one wants that, right? And I still don't think that a wall is going to be a solution, because everyone can have a letter. A wall never is going to be a solution. Actually, border controls who are properly paid and have a proper system and know how to check on people. I agree.
I mean, hey, we could sit down and if we wanted to sit down and solve the world's problems, we could do that. I mean, sit down and just throw it all out there. But at the end of the day, you got to test things and theories and all that. And the wall itself, as far as I understand, it's 30 foot tall and it's non-climbable or whatever else. So even if they're using a ladder, that's going to significantly slow down the process of bringing people over, versus just a completely open border. You have nothing to stop that, And there is a level of crime and stuff that exists as a result of that. So
sure, but I tell you again, in Germany, we had, not only in Berlin, because you called it the Berlin Wall, right? That's not true. The wall went through whole fucking Germany. It was tall as fuck. I don't know the exact, but 30 feet could be more or less, right? We had a fence on top. We had 24/7 for all the 29 years. We had guards on there that would shoot you in the face if you come closer than a kilometer.
Wow.
And I tell you how many people were able to cross the border without being seen, many more than you would ever wish to. Yeah. And the thing is, a wall can never stop someone, for real. It's systems, it's proper processes. And I can tell you, because I'm a fucking systems person, that systems can work, but they need to be, I like to say, bulletproof and implemented.
Yeah.
And I tell you, because in Germany, we took 1.5 million refugees in from Syria, most of them without papers, and we didn't have a system in place. And obviously that didn't work well. But did we give them a place to be? Yes, because they actually needed it. You cannot just let people die on the fucking ocean, which happened in Europe way too much. You cannot just let people die on the way to the US, wherever they go. It doesn't matter if it's the US, if it's in Europe, wherever. We can just not let people die. They need a place to be, wherever that is. I don't talk about the US, but they need a place to be. That's all I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
And so Yeah,
Okay, well, let's
easy.
dive into this since you're going into that. So my thought is whenever we start getting into like people even making that journey in the first place, like what is it? And I don't want to presume to be like Mr. Know-it-all in this whole world, but like if you've got a country that is doing those kind of things, like why not fight it, right? If there's
Okay,
that many people fleeing the country, right, from your
right,
perspective, because for us, it's there's people from all over the world. A lot of people think it's just Mexico, but we have actually a significant amount of Chinese people crossing the border. We've got people literally from all over the world, and there's stuff like the Muslim terrorists, like ISIS controlled types of deals that are partnering up with the cartels. I mean, we've got drug trade happening across that thing that's creating all kind. That's big business, right? So if you stand in the
right,
way of that, it creates big issues. I mean, there's a lot of problems of open borders and probably a lot of lack of systems too. I'm not negating what you were talking about there. And the fact that I know personally, I actually have a friend of mine who's from Germany originally, and they came here years ago. And they came here on a visa, and to get legal citizenship took him like 10 years, something
I
crazy
know.
like that. So I'm like,
Yeah,
that's just ridiculous. And
yeah,
I know that there's good people that come here straight from Mexico that are doing with the same thing. Great people, right? They come here on a
right,
visa, they overstay their visa, now they're wanted. But you got people that are coming here straight up illegally now that are getting just written off as like, oh, it's okay, you're just here. While the people that came here that have actually been productive and all that kind of stuff, they're now they can't get legal citizenship. So I do
right.
believe there's areas that we definitely need to work on. But you say a wall doesn't work, but at the same time, if it may not have to be 100% of the solution, but even if it curbs it by 60%, which is what we're seeing so far with some of the numbers on the new wall, like that's a start, right? And then you can kind of come
Mm.
in and clean it up with some of the systems and stuff like that as well. So,
I got a
um,
question.
okay.
So, first of all, I would like to know how often or how much have you been traveling to countries where people coming from actually the place of the need where they actually have to leave their countries from?
I've been to Honduras. I've been to Costa Rica. I've been to Nicaragua. I've been to Mexico, and the poor parts of Mexico, not the good ones. Same thing with
Yeah.
Honduras. Costa Rica was more of an adventure type trip, but we did
Hmm.
travel through some of the smaller parts of that, And I understand there's destitution and all of that kind of stuff. And a lot of the problem is that here, and I'm sure that this happens in Europe too, but like here, the political spectrum. Oh, hold on, man. I'm going to get this dog out. All right, I apologize. He's over here whining like
Don't
crazy.
worry.
So he's so politically we've got people now that are utilizing, hey, come to this country and you're going to be taken care of, right? On the opposition of like Trump or whatever else. So primarily on the Democrat side, and they're using this as some kind of a game to get brownie points. And what the way that I perceive what's going on, and maybe this is right, maybe it isn't, is that they're using people as novelties, right, to
Hmm.
fulfill their political agenda, and it's hurting real people. And then so because of that, when we oppose that from a conservative standpoint, we look like the bad guys,
Hmm.
right? Because we're trying to
Okay.
uphold law,
I think the good part is that I'm not a US citizen, so I
right?
have no whatsoever stand on whatever political parties you have and you do there, because I also think that that's a whole different topic, and I'm not going to get into that because I don't know enough about it, and
Right.
I don't want to know enough about it,
No,
I
I think
guess.
you'd be fun. I think you'd be a fun one to go into that with, and I'm always open for that conversation. So,
You
but
don't want
continue.
me to go into that right now. So,
Yeah, not
um,
here, no,
but
no, for sure.
so I'm coming from, I think the perspective I really come from is, first of all, I and I think it's good to know. Again, I'm from Germany. I paid most of my life 47% tax.
Right.
That mostly went to
Did you
either
like that?
bloody. That's a different question. I'm saying
Yeah.
that most of all goes, first of all, to bloody fucking lazy Germans who don't want to work. And I don't like that. I rather, and I mean that, I rather pay 47% tax to help people who got bombed the shit out of their country and had to leave. Because here's again, and I want you to really understand that, Corey, they don't want to leave. Most of them, and I really urge you to look into the numbers. And we had some studies by the time that the crisis in Germany happened. 2 to 3% of the whole refugees only were economic refugees that tried to come and sneak in and get the money. The others were literally war refugees or refugees that had to flee because of religious background. So they were haunted for their beliefs.
Yeah.
Now guess what? So most of those, they were professors, doctors, really well off in their country, and they come to our country, and because we don't have a system in place, they're not allowed to work. In Germany, it takes them alone 2 years to even maybe get asylum. Then from those 2 years, another 2 to 3 to be integrated and then be allowed to work. Now that makes 5 years of your fucking life that you were forced to leave your home that you never planned to fucking leave, to go to a country that maybe even tells you, well, we don't want you here, to integrate into that country and then work for their economy. Now, would you really want that? And I'm saying that because I know both sides. Did I like paying 47% tax? You fucking bet I didn't. But I rather give the money to people that we, and I mean with we as Western society, forced to leave because, well, we can now kind of discuss about who is the reason of having war, but I'm not going to get into that either. We are all kind of like, we have all our our place in that thing, right?
Right.
But the thing is, so again, they didn't want to leave, so I'd rather pay my 47% to them. And again, how much actually is going from my 47% to them? It wasn't even, I think it was like not even a percentage that they would use.
Yeah, because the government's handling it, right? So I have a question for you. Okay, so coming back from that, is it that the country didn't want them there, or because this is not the issue, Monique? It is typically, from my perspective, and I'm pretty involved in politics, like at the state level for sure, and even at the national level, paying attention to it, right? And it's not a matter of not wanting people here. I actually love people, and I want people to have the best lives that they possibly can. I do think that it's hard to just, like willy-nilly open the border up and be like, oh, just come in here and we can handle it. And because financially you can't. And I'm not saying that they're coming here just for that. But what I'm saying is that when they come here and people are like, oh, you can come over here and you can get this and you can get that and you can get all these free government subsidies, which I don't know if you've heard, but we're over $20 trillion in debt as a nation. We don't need to be trying to take on any other debt right now. We need to be eliminating it, and the spending and stuff that's happening right now. The other part of it. Go ahead.
Very quick. Why do you think you need to eliminate it? Because here's the thing. Every other nation is in debt too. By the end of the time, we're just going to die and no one gives a fuck about what countries and what debt. And that's just like my thing, right? So yes, should we eliminate debt? Sure. Is it going to work? No. 20
because I think it
trillion.
comes with being a good steward, right? For me, I'm a Christian. So like we need to be like, do you believe that we should take care of the earth?
Here's the thing. I believe.
You believe we should take care of people, right?
Right. So here's the thing, right? You say and again, I never said that I believe in open borders. I don't. Right. I believe in a system to manage who comes in and who shouldn't.
Okay. So we're probably on the same page in a lot of ways. It's just a matter of getting down the details.
I just believe that, first of all, the word illegal, in my opinion, is not to be used for humans. I don't believe in anyone to be illegal. Is someone to be...
You're not talking about in form of law, right? Because, like, you believe in law?
I do, in a certain extent. So here's the thing, right? Should a human be, the thing is illegal. You make someone kind of be a thing. Does it make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to make someone be a thing. If you reduce them to a piece of paper with a stamp, who are we to kind of, I don't like that. So, and that's a personal opinion.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with that. That's fine. But I think there must be a different level of how we go about that. Should we go for law? For sure. Can we decide to protect our own citizens in our own countries? 100%. But can we please be a little bit more human about how we do that? Do we have to call someone illegal just because we are saying, like, actually right now you're not supposed to be in our country? Can we just say, like, you're not supposed to be here? I don't know. Like, can we not just make them illegal?
Politically, no, you can't, because that's just, like it or not, the world is run by politics. You know what I'm saying? And it always will be. Like, no matter how much we try to get rid of it or whatever else, like, it's so funny to me when I hear people say, this is 2019, we should have evolved by now. If you realistically look at, and this is the thing, I think most people disassociate themselves from history or don't know it at all, right? And human beings do not change, period. Like, we just don't. Like, technology changes, and all the thing is that we just get better toys, along the way. Yeah. But like, even reading the Bible, like, if you go in there and you read it, a lot of times we disassociate because it's these and thous and all these kind of things. But if you really look at the scenarios that a lot of these people went through, you and I go through them in the same capacity today. We just happen to have better toys. We have a more sophisticated society in that we have plumbing, we have trash removal, right? But I mean, like, reality, like, is like, we're no different off, and the same issues that they were having back then are the same issues that we're having today, relatively, right? And so to think that we're ever going to outgrow this or be anything different. And, I know a lot of people, they talk about the United States and American Indians and all this kind of stuff, and that we took their land. At the end of the day, that's just the way life works, right? There's a good chance that at some point, and I know Germans hate this, but we could tie this back to Hitler and how he went out and started going through, not to say that every German is even, I don't even know if any are, to be honest with you, but like, that's an easy one for you to understand, because he was on a world conquest, mission, right? He was going to make it happen and all this. And it was because of the rule of law and, like, understanding, like, should we have just allowed Germany to just do what they were going to do for the sake of, like, oh, well, hey, I don't want to call him illegal because he's a human being, but they're going to come over here and take over our country, and we should just let him because that's the nice thing to do, right? No, hell no. You fight back like a freaking hornet's nest. And while most people that are coming over here illegally may not have the intention of taking over, there are some that do. And it's important to have borders on countries. That doesn't mean we push people away because of their nationality. That just means we set up a process. I agree with you. Maybe we should hire you to come in the United States and put together a process for immigration, right? A better one. And, and we hold true to that law, and we have good checks and balances in place for all of that. But it doesn't mean that we just open up our border and say, hey, come on in, because you wouldn't do it in your home, right? You have a lock on your door, I'm assuming, where you stay somewhere.
That's another question. I don't usually, but anyways, I don't.
But I mean, if somebody just walked into your house, would you let them stay? If somebody just randomly walked into your house without permission and started eating the food in your fridge, drinking your water, eating your electric, maybe you would do it. You're a bigger person than I am. I wouldn't do that. I'd put a gun in their face and I'd have them laying on the floor until the cops got there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, because
I would ask them why they're here. And if they say, like, I don't have anywhere to stay and I'm hungry, I would say, like, okay, there's the fruit, there's the water. Tomorrow morning, you know where to go. If you need help, let me know. Don't take my money. And if you need some, ask me for it.
There you go. You're a nicer person than me in that regard. I think that if that person would come up to me and be like, I need help, I'm happy to do that. But if you enforce or automatically assume that making yourself at home in my house is a option, we're going to have a problem, right? Because that's not how it works, at least in my house. So
I mean, it's really, I think it's just, I mean, that's a very different kind of conversation to have, like, you know, because
why is that different?
like,
I don't understand.
well, because like, for example, in some cultures, that's just how it works. Like, they're
What, you just
very
walk in the
open.
door?
Well, they're very hospitality friendly and very giving. So sometimes if like foreign people come in or strangers come in, and obviously they wouldn't just walk to the fridge and get the food, but I think it's a very different kind of case because that's not what happens. The people, for example, that I think come to the borders, they ask for permission to enter the US. Most of them. I'm not talking about cartels and traffickers, obviously. I'm talking about the people who are running away from being killed, walking thousands of kilometers to ask for permission to enter the United States. And I think there is something wrong with calling them illegal straight off just because they're asking for permission to enter. And I think that's not okay.
I would be really surprised if that was that particular scenario was any more than maybe 5% over the overall immigration issue that we have, where people are literally fleeing for their lives. I think most people are coming here for the fact that they just want a better life for their family, and I get that. I'm not at all thinking that they shouldn't have the opportunity, but we have a process in place for that. As messed up as it may be, I don't know the ins and outs of it, so I can't really speak to that. But I do think that, you know, in order for people to respect, especially when people come here and then they're trying to basically turn this into the kind of country that they are leaving in the first place. It's if they're not going to assimilate in a way that's like, okay, hey, I want to come here and I want to be productive in society here based on their laws, right? I'm not going to go into your house and start switching the paintings and everything, right? Because it's like, hey, this place is a piece of crap. I'm going to, you know, and I turn it into Corey's America, right? In your house. I'm not doing that because I'm going to respect the fact that you've given me hospitality and opened up that opportunity there. The other thing I wanted to speak to, by the way, because I know you talked about that 47% tax rate, which is insane, but you know, it's like, that's just the way that it works, right? When governments think that they can do it better than we can, how cool would it have been? And you're mad because that 47% tax rate is going to lazy Germans, as you put it, which I completely agree with you. I am completely against socialism, you know, as a whole. And that's a small percentage of socialism, because socialism is going to do that same thing. And it's the government saying, we can do this better than you can. And it takes advantage of people who are, I believe, generous overall in their heart. Like, they want to do better and they want to make an impact in the lives of people, but they don't realize that it's the government saying, hey, we can do this and we're going to penalize you if you don't do this. And by the way, you can only ever do this much because we've already deemed it that if you go above and beyond this, that you're somehow evil and you need to be giving back. But when you ask most of the people who believe in the concept of socialism, if they would be able to be willing to open up their home, or, you know, like if they would be willing to be held back or whatever else, the answer is absolutely no, right? And so I think that it's a matter of heart and head issue where, like where you're doing right now, you've taken time out of your life to go and make an impact on these women and these girls because you wanted to. You weren't forced to do that.
No.
And that is what I'm trying to say. So I think, like, we're saying the same thing in a lot of ways, but it's like when we have the ability to do it on our own, and we're like, we need to be not in like having the government force people to do it. You and I, because you're idealistic, I'm idealistic, the men in this group are idealistic. We need to be challenging other people to rise to that on their own, and give them the path to do that.
If I may just challenge that thought, because so I'm here, right? And so we have these kids in the village that do not have any access to schools. So in their free time right now. So while there are like summer holidays and there may not be in boarding school or whatever, there's no way for them. They can be really, they can be getting away from home. But the longer they're around home or these communities, the higher the risk is that someone from hospitality companies comes and literally traffics them. Kids.
Yeah.
4 to 10, 4 to 12.
Right.
Sex slaves them, right? So, hey, we have a summer job for you. Do you want to join? You can make a lot of money for your family back home. So what we do is we organize these workshops and we call them like little summer camps to make it like better and more fun for them, because otherwise they would be like, oh no, that's boring. Because who wants a summer camp? I mean, they actually want to, but it's another topic. So we go there. So we drive up into literally in the middle of the jungle. If there's rainy season, you get stuck. So sometimes you have to walk like 40 minutes and trek there and whatever. The school is literally an open house, just the floor, nothing else in there. So we have to kind of be really creative about all of these things. Now, why do I actually do that? Why do I even take out of my business? So right now, for example, I'm not growing my business. I choose to take my income, my investment, my time, my like everything, and put it here to the kids, to the woman, to, well, also I cuddle elephants every day, so that's kind of like my reward, right?
Yeah.
But why do I do that? I do that because so many things in my life have happened, which I can now say they happened for me. But I had like a shit show of a life, and I don't want anyone to have to go through that. But let's be very honest here, Corey, and I really want to challenge that. How many people do you know? And maybe only because we surround ourselves with it. But if we look outside, how many people honestly would go and be like, you know what? I'm actually going to go and do something for someone else, even though that means I'm going to make less money, I'm going to have less time, I'm not going to be around my family, or whatever it is, you know? How many people are going to do that? And if you say we have to challenge the society, I'm going to be really honest. I don't want to say I'm not very hopeful, but I'm not very much, I'd rather do it myself, because then I know fucking shit's getting done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the thing is, like, if you say, for example, well, you know, I don't want to help welfare because of socialism, whatever, I totally get what you're saying. Did I like to pay 47% tax? No, I still don't like it. Do I think there are lazy Germans getting their ass being paid off, and other Germans working even more and still getting paid less than from welfare? Yes. But do I think it's somehow necessary, like a basic kind of social system where people can fall back onto? Because sometimes life hits really hard and it's not their fault. I think so, because I do think that most of the times those people are the ones that also take the responsibility to get themselves out again, right? The ones who are lazy, they don't do shit anyways. So they shouldn't have the welfare system. But then we have in Germany a very different system that anyways gets them out of it again. But that's another
So what
story.
if that welfare system you're talking about is the very thing instigating that level of laziness? And I'm not saying that, I'm not arguing the fact that maybe we have something in place to kind of help people out. But again, I'm a very autonomous person. Like I expect myself to kind of handle my own situations in life, and I expect that out of other people. So I don't really have a lot of tolerance for like people not handling their stuff. Now, trust me, I'm not saying that there hadn't been times of need in my life, or that I've known people that have needed things or whatever else, and that we step up in that. I think, and this is a big conversation to be had in the first place, because we really do have to start questioning, like, why do we do these things in the first place? Or why don't we do these things in the first place? And to your point is how many people would actually do that? It doesn't matter. Like, it's still not the government's job to enforce morality, right? Or to say, hey, you owe me 50% of your income so that we can go over here and do this, whenever we all know the truth that, like you said, only a half of a fraction of a percent is actually going to actually doing anything in the first place. Because it's getting lost in the books, and then they're taking that and they're using it for other initiatives, and then it just is it's a cluster. And so I think that doing what you're doing, like with Daughters Rising and some of the other organizations that are out there, like they're already set up to do big things. Like, why wouldn't you take if you were to get taxed at 10% and then take whatever that percentage difference was and then invest it in something like that, or invest it in other organizations, like for me, the church, our church is out actually doing big things. My church that I go to gives over $20 million away to other mission that aren't even necessarily directly connected to the church, to our church, in the communities and all these other different things, because the point is about making a difference. And I would much rather give to an organization like that that's going to distribute it out and has an intention of doing something bigger than fulfilling some political agenda in the first place. Right.
Yeah.
And like here in the country, and I don't know how familiar you are, and I know we're going down. Let me know if you got to go, because I know it's late there. But
no, I have time.
Okay, cool. So you get down to talking about, like, here in the U.S., we had what was called the American Revolution. You may or may not know about it, but basically that was back in the 1700s when we were fighting against the British to get our freedom from them. What's interesting about that time is that we went up against the largest army, the strongest army the world had ever known up to that point throughout all of history, with 3% of the colonies of the United States. Only 3% of the population of the United States at that time went up against that army, and we won. 3%, Monique. Yeah. You don't need the world to fall in line with that. You only need a freaking motivated 3%. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then, like, once it becomes cool, like, dude, if we were to do that and we made making an impact trendy, then the people are going to fall in line and they're going to do whatever they do. And you're always going to have those people out there that will never do it regardless. And who cares? That's their thing to live with. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to stop thinking that we have the ability to push people to do things with big daddy government, right? That, like, it's literally, to me, it comes off as being a form of not having grown up yet, where we think that we can use the government to push people into doing things. And it's like,
exactly. Yeah. But I also think we can't push them to do something good like we do. So either, as you said, like, if you show we have the impact and we kind of make it trendy, then people just follow along one day. Yeah. But because you said, like, well, I want to challenge people to do that, I don't think that kind of how it works, right? So it works like reverse engineered. You do it, you show how cool it is. You, like, I think only when people kind of make it mass popular, then kind of, if Jessica Alba goes out and shakes her perfect ass for a charity, that might become a trend, and then everyone's going to do it, and like maybe we're lucky to get like millions of dollars for all the charities out there, or whatever it's going to happen, you know what I mean? Right. But like, as you said, like, the government can't push an agenda unless they have a really good marketing trend or tweet some bullshit out there, or you can't challenge people to do shit, because who are you to kind of, tell them what to do? So the only thing how it works is like to show them that it works. So we need to be the example. But if there are no examples out there, like, who's going to do it? So I'm just going to go ahead and be that example that I want to see out there more, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that we're basically saying the same thing in that regard. And it's a matter of, like, to me, it's like not a matter of paying 47% tax to the government. And I don't think you're arguing in favor of that. But it's like, we need to address that, because we need to be paying less, putting a government in check to where they're spending less money. Because you were talking about that, who's going to remember it? Like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Like, it's just not the right thing to do. We wouldn't do that in our homes, so we shouldn't allow the government to do that either, right? Yeah. To spend outside of their realm. And so, like, and I believe that we're not going to be blessed as nations or anything else like that either if we're going to be living like that. Like, it's just sloppy. And everybody's got their hand in the pie, and it's like, we don't have any rules. Like, it's like, I'm not going to let my 7-year-old son or my 3-year-old daughter just walk around and do whatever they want to do. It's not because I don't love them. It's to the contrary, actually, because I do love them. And I'm going to put boundaries in place in their life, and they're going to exist within those boundaries, or they're going to have consequences, period. Yeah,
totally.
And eventually, when they become old enough to do that, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. I'll let the chips fall where they will in that. But I'll tell you, I mean, it's not because of my intention being ill will, right? It's because of my intention being like, I want them to have something to look forward to in life. And what they don't understand is like, I'm not going to let them eat marshmallow cookies or anything all day long and play video games and not go to school and watch cartoons and all this stuff, because there's something that they don't understand about life yet. Right. And what they think they believe because of their existence, their whole existence has been, those are good things and disciplined things are bad. Right. So it's my job to sometimes enforce by force, right? Like, you're going to do this, right? Otherwise you're going to get a spanking or something like that, you know? And I'm not like a big spanker. I don't go around like just spanking them every time, but like there are times where that's a necessary thing. And then for them to fall in line with that. And then one day they will recognize that the things that I've built up inside of them, they can flow with, you know? And that now they have boundaries for how they live life, and they can see in clear lanes like you do. Efficiency requires boundaries.
Yep, it does.
Right. And so like if you just let people willy-nilly, you get inefficiency or inefficiency, however you'd say that, right? And then nobody knows what the heck's going on because there's no rules to anything.
No, I do believe that we need rules and boundaries. I do think we can overdo it for sure as well.
You do believe what?
That we can overdo things with too many rules and too many laws and too many boundaries.
I think there's definitely a healthy balance there, but you know, it's like, you know, we need to respect those things and then try to figure out what's normal. You know, I mean, like discipline equals freedom. You know, Jocko Willink, he's a Navy, so he says that all the time, and it's like,
I know,
when we understand when we exist within disciplines, we actually gain so much more freedom. And I can tell you're a creative person. I am too. Like, our weakest strength, or at least for me, it seems like you've got it nailed down, but is discipline a lot of times. So I have to force discipline. I force myself to take cold showers. I force myself to wake up at 4 a.m. every morning. I force myself into a morning routine and working out and doing all these things because it's not always easy. Very rarely is it desirable, right? That first thing in the morning, I'm cranking over to an ice cold shower, you know, and stepping in. Like, that is not something I look forward to necessarily, but I know that it's helping tame this, you know, for the day. And it helps me with my mental toughness and those types of things. So, you know, I think we exist within their governments in the same way and in our own lives. And we end up seeing the fruit of that as a result. So
totally.
Yeah. Well, you're doing an awesome thing. Why don't you tell everybody how they can find out what you're doing with Daughters Rising, where they can find out more about working with you, which I highly recommend. I haven't done it yet, but I mean, just kind of talking with you, I've enjoyed like what you had to say. And I think, you know, I know a lot of the same people you're already working with, like Kyrie and some of those people. So let us know what's up.
So I think the easiest way to find everything about me is, first of all, check out my Facebook profile and then hop on my website. That's my first name, last name.com. So Monique Lindner. If you say it in German, it's Lindner. If you say it in English, it's probably whatever, Lindner or whatever.
Lindner, yeah, Lindner.
Lindner. Yeah, Lindner is the German version. So MoniqueLindner.com. And yeah, I'm actually adding my mission about Daughters Rising and what I'm going to do myself with my own nonprofit that I'm going to build in the next 5 years. I'm going to talk about that on my website. And yeah, you can apply to work with me there because I'm not going to take everyone. And yeah, boundaries, right? And yeah, you can read more about the time method and my German efficiency on demand, basically. How you
German efficiency, I love it. Yeah, that's good. Well, thank you so much, Monique. I really enjoyed this conversation with you, and like I appreciate you being able and willing to dive into some of the more controversial subjects and of that. And I appreciate your perspective and always appreciate engaging with you on social media. And if you ever need anything, obviously reach out to me anytime. I'm happy to help. And I want to continue that conversation, even if we don't do it over podcast or whatever else. But, it's like, if we don't know,
I would love to.
Yeah. If we don't challenge what we believe and we're not willing to be challenged on it, how do we ever know we really believe it in the first place? So
100%. And I do have some more topics to challenge you on for sure.
Oh yeah, I love it. Let's do it. We'll have to do that, just a challenge Corey segment. That'd be pretty awesome. So MoniqueLindner.com or Lindner, what'd you say?
Lindner. That's Lindner.
Yeah. But how do you say it in German? Lindner?
Lindner.
Lindner. All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, so much fun. It was a lot of fun. And I'll get this over to you as well. In the meantime, guys, if you want to go check her out and then check out what she's doing with Daughters Rising, I think that's daughtersrising.com, like she said. And then Monique.
.org. Yep.
.org. Okay.
Yeah.
And, if you can help out financially, be a part. That's really something I want to challenge you guys on is, and I know a lot of you are, but get involved, make a difference. And do y'all allow volunteers and stuff too, or what do y'all do there?
Yeah. So what I recently actually said is like you can become a monthly donor, or do you say that? Donor. And so if you would actually just donate a coffee a month, which is like $5, right? You can make a huge difference already. You can help get school books for the kids. You can help get rice for the families here that usually wouldn't have been able to have more rice otherwise. Or if you, I donate with every client that I get at least $200 to $500, which enables a girl to go to school for a year, have a uniform and old school books. You can help one specific girl to get a scholarship that's between $1,000 and $9,000 if you feel really giving this year for Christmas, maybe. So you can just do a one-off donation, or you can do a monthly one. And we would be very, very happy to have a few join us. And even a coffee a month already helps us so much. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. No, I appreciate what you guys are doing. Thank you for being a part of that and doing what you can to make a difference as well. That's a big impact. So, all right, guys. Well, you got your marching orders. You go out there and be a part of what they're doing. And y'all have a wonderful day. Monique, thanks again. I hope you have a great night. Tell everybody over there that we're praying for them, and we appreciate you guys. And we'll talk to you later.
Thank you so much, Corey, for having me.
You're welcome. See you.